Hey, welcome back to a long, by popular demand, episode of Dick and Norm's Movie Talk. Next to me is Dick. Hi, Dick. Hey,
Hello.
Dick.
How you doing, Norm? It's been a couple
Norm,
of
good.
years.
It's been a few years now. There is a playlist. I'll put a link below. We did maybe 5 of these in the past, but I think the whole pandemic we sat out for the most part. But Dick and Norm, and Dick has a channel. The channel's under a different name, and of course, if you're at my channel, you know I'm Norm for this thing. But we don't do movies a lot. But Dick and Norm are basically the same age within a year or so. So we grew up with these movies, and this was Dick's idea, this concept, and it's not some big major cinematic experience thing. We just decided to each pick 10 films that meant a lot to us, or that we have some maybe personal connection with for whatever reason. And they're not necessarily our best, are they? Our favorites?
No, not at all.
Well, how
Um,
do you see it?
well, I watched a video by the Garage Geek, and he showed 10 movies that had an impact on him. And I really enjoyed the video, and I thought, man, I'm gonna do a response to that. And as I was going through and picking records, I was thinking, this would be perfect for Dick and Norm. And
This is like a reunion.
yeah,
This is like when the band gets back together and makes that record later on that either people love or can't stand.
the one that blew up. Yeah.
Exactly right.
But I don't think this is necessarily going to be all technical in that. And I think the reason people tune in to me, and I know for you, it's more of the human side of it and the personal stories. And I thought, you know what, this stream or whatever thread would be perfect for me and you to do it. And his is pretty enjoyable, especially his take on the Buck Rogers movie. It's pretty funny.
Okay, I'll try to find it, and I'll try to put a link below. I'll look at you sent it to me. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll watch it. So
Yeah.
we're going to
Now,
show 10
apparently,
go ahead.
okay, apparently this originated from the Rad Pack. It's I guess they're part of the movie community. I'm not familiar with, and I watched a couple of those, and those are 80s kids, and they're showing movies that they grew up with in the 80s. I don't know if you're going to just show kid when you were kids. One of mine isn't.
No,
And
I go through literally like 40 years of cinema. 30
yeah,
years, 30 years of cinema.
yeah, mine is probably pretty similar, because some of this first one is definitely made before I was born. A couple of these are.
Me too.
All right.
All right, why don't you start out with the first one, 10 movies, and these are not in any kind of order, really. I put mine in chronological order just because it's an easy way to tell the story.
Yeah, mine are not in chronological order when they came out, but more or less when I saw them.
Okay.
That's how I did it. And now, when I was a kid, I really liked the Universal monster movies. I had models that my dad made and painted of Frankenstein, the Mummy, Dracula, I had like 4 of them. And I'm going to show this one here.
Oh, yeah.
The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, I'm showing this one. I mean, I saw Frankenstein when I was a kid, Dracula, all those, but I don't really remember where I saw them at, probably on TV. But I remember seeing this movie at the theater with my Uncle Bob. Now, my Uncle Bob loved old monster movies. His wife didn't really care for him. Apparently, my brother didn't want to go. His 2 boys didn't want to go. It was just me and him. And yeah, it was fantastic, man. I love this movie. It's I think it originally came out on 3D. I don't believe it was 3D when I saw it, but it was in the 60s when I saw it, and this came out in the 50s. It's a great movie. It's kind of has like, the King Kong, where there's like that kind of attraction or love interest,
and the jungle boats going
yeah,
up the river.
This has a little bit of that, but with this one, it's a three-way love affair.
It's like
But yeah,
Apocalypse Now before Apocalypse Now, going up the
Yeah.
river to find Kurtz.
yeah,
What's interesting about that? I agree with you because I grew up with all the Universal Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, and in a way that was the scariest because it seemed to be like of our time, not
yeah,
like on some like in Transylvania or wherever, you know.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. I was going to show the first movie that kind of like got me like afraid and scared me. I don't have the first one that I saw when I was 8 years old in 62. I'll mention it. Then I'm going to show an alternate. But the first one that I remember seeing in the theater and I had like nightmares for a long time after was a Roger Corman film, X, the Man with the X-Ray Eyes, with Ray Milland. And he's a scientist that takes a serum and he can see like through things and he can see like through women's clothes and it gets weird and weirder and weirder. At the end, he plucks his eyes out in the revival tent and he looks up and that's the last scene with like eye sockets. That scared the shit out of me when I saw it. But anyway, a movie that I didn't see when it came out, but years later, because I was a big sci-fi kid. And of course, probably like you, the afternoons, there was all these sci-fi movies when you get home from school that were on TV. But it was The Day the Earth Stood Still. And this is 1951, so it was before both of our times. But this was creepy in a different way.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Wasn't Ringo in that movie?
No. Yeah. But Klaatu Verada Nikto. But this is a Robert Wise film. Of course, Michael Rene and Patricia, what's her name? Patricia Neal, of course. But Sam Jaffe is kind of the character. It's kind of like the Albert Einstein. And I mean, this to me is a really good film, even topical today with an alien coming to, hey, Earth, you're screwing up. We need to put brakes on everything. And it was creepy. It was cerebral. And I didn't know what cerebral was, but it was a thinking, not just a big monster. It was a thinking sci-fi film. And I love this film, 1951. So I'm starting with that.
I saw that movie way later after it came out. It's a good movie.
Me too, obviously. I saw it in the 60s. So
in fact, I think I do have it on DVD.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, my next one. I don't believe I saw this when it came out, but I remember I saw the first four all at the theater, but I think Goldfinger might have been the first one that I saw at, you know, when it was a new movie, because back then they used to show movies for a lot longer than they do now. You know what I mean? This movie, what's her name?
Ursula Andress?
Yeah, Ursula Andress. When she comes out of the ocean.
We should call her Ursula Undress, right?
Yeah. When she comes out of the ocean, it stirred something in me. And
With the
I realized then I'm attracted to women, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, your harpoon gun went off.
Yeah, well, not quite, but it wanted to, man. In fact, I dug the spy movies so much. I remember one Christmas I got a briefcase for Christmas, and it was like a secret agent, you know, it had like a secret knife and a hidden gun and all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah, I dig the early James Bond movies, and yeah, man, I used to pretend to be a spy when I was playing and stuff.
You're still pretending to be a spy, Dickie.
Yeah.
Dick. Okay, my next one, I have two movies I picked from 1964. The first one, I don't know if it was like you, but in San Francisco in the Bay Area, like your parents would drop you off at the movies, just leave you there. I mean, it wasn't about how you could be young, but I was 9.5, 10 years old that summer of 64. And the first one, they let me and my buddies there, and we literally stayed 3 times to see the movie. Those days you could sit in the theater and just keep walking. And I saw this movie 3 times, and it was a fantasy. I was in awe of it. And that's with it's a great movie with Tony Randall, The 7 Faces of Dr. Lao. And George Pal directed this, and Tony Randall plays all the parts. Like there's Medusa, there's Dr. Lao, there's just all the serpent and all these weird things. He plays the face and the voices. And of course, now you know, someone would probably say, why do you have to have a white guy playing an Asian character? But it was obviously a different time then. It was a character, but it's a fanciful, uh, amazing film. Takes place in the American West, and when the carnival sort of in a way rolls to town. But unlike a normal carnival, there's some creepiness to it. So I could totally imagine in this day, you know how they do American remakes all the time. I could totally see Tim Burton doing a version of this now. But Seven Faces of Dr. Lao, Barbara Eden's in it, of course. I Dream of Jeannie, and Arthur O'Connell, and just love this movie.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh God, oh, think of as a 10-year-old kid, it's just fantasy driven. I got to watch it again. It's been a while since I watched it.
You know how, like you said, it's a different time. It isn't all that different because they just released what was it, a Cleopatra movie, and they had an African American play a Greek woman, you know. So,
and Mrs. Maisel, you know, the TV show, the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I can't believe they couldn't find a Jewish woman. They had to get an Irish girl to play a Jew.
Yeah, I don't think there were any Jews around back then.
No, there's no Jews in Hollywood, that's for sure.
Not in Hollywood, at
No.
least. You know.
All right.
My next one.
I almost picked that.
This movie blew me away, man. When I saw this at the theater, it's based on a T.E. Lawrence book that he wrote, the seven, I don't know, something. But I remember seeing this movie and thinking, man, when I grow up, I want to be like this guy. Now we watched it recently, and my wife goes, man, that guy is creepy, you know, because he does kind of trip out there. And I don't remember that part. When I was a kid, I don't know, that part didn't faze me, but yeah, I dug this movie. I think it's like 3.5 hours long.
It had an intermission. That's the time. Remember the road shows in the 60s?
Yeah,
intermission to get a program.
Yeah. This one had an intermission, and it needed it. Yeah. In fact, I took a girlfriend of mine in the late 80s. An
overture. I think it has an overture too at the beginning.
Yeah.
West Side Story.
Yeah, that plays. But in the late 80s, I took a girlfriend of mine to this, and she was not very enthusiastic. I don't want to. And she loved the movie, man. But yeah, it's a great movie. If anybody out there that hasn't seen this, highly recommend. And
every few years, that gets reissued, like on a big screen. They do a 70mm version of it, and I go see it every time, just because that's the way to see that movie. Of course, I have the letterbox stuff, and I can watch it on TV, but that's one of those movies that if you can, you got to see it in the theater, and it comes around. It's
the cinematography on that and the acting. It's a great movie.
Now, this
great story.
My other Summer's 64 is an obvious choice for me, just because, and that's A Hard Day's Night. You know, this is one of many. This is a Criterion version of it, but who cares? I don't give a shit about which version it is. This is a great movie that holds up today because it's in black and white. I remember that every 20 years they're saying, why don't they do a colorized version of it or something? No. It's almost like cinema verite. Richard Lester. It was a script written by Alan Owen, but it's really them. His script was based on when he traveled with them, the Beatles, from New York to DC on the train, and that's kind of the crux of it. And it's the day in the life of the Beatles, really. And just what a great thing. And I like this idea that they were trying to think of it, you know, at the end of one of the days of shooting, Ringo said, it's been a hard day. And he looks up and it says night. And that night, John and Paul write a song like that and record it the next day or something. I mean, but this is a major film. And anyway, 1964, another 10-year-old Mazzy in the theater staying twice to see this, and girls screaming in the theater.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the theater. I mean, it did have an impact on me, but I think it had an impact on the kids of the U.S. in general, because a lot of bands started based on the Beatles, you know.
Yeah. Oh, everybody picked up a guitar. Like one day I was playing Little League baseball, and then I was all of a sudden I wanted to play music.
Yeah, that's the effect it had. Now, my next one, I'm not going to just show one movie. It's kind of like a genre.
Uh-oh.
And it's
so you're cheating. You're cheating.
It's B movies.
Okay. Well,
Because
like Man with the X-Ray Eyes.
exactly. This is volume 1. The Man with the X-Ray Eyes is on the volume 2 that I have.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's movies like The Giant Behemoth. And you could go to the Tejon Theater, and like you said, you would go there and you'd spend like half a day or all day there, because they would have a double feature. And if you wanted, you could watch it again. You know, the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
Yeah, the
I mean,
first
these
one
are all,
was, I think the Giant Behemoth was like Ray Harryhausen did the stop motion on it.
he could have.
Yeah.
I'm not that technical. And then you got this one with Zsa Gabor. I remember seeing this at the theater, Queen of the Outer Space.
Does that get your
But
spear gun going, Dick?
Yeah. Not really. The spear gun went off on brunettes more than blondes for me.
That's it. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
all that stuff was great because that's what, up in the Bay Area, we had chillers from science fiction, like Tuesdays and Thursdays afternoon were the sci-fi shows, and all the, the nuclear scare 50s, Red Scare, nuclear blasts, like Amazing Colossal Man and all those things, were big. So next I'm going to 68. And for a lot of reasons, seeing this movie in a theater and when the audience would jump, I was 14 years old, and I loved it because I like kind of thrillers, even then as a young teenager, but also because it was filmed in San Francisco, and that's Bullitt, Steve McQueen. And just, I mean, the car, obviously I know those streets now. At those days, I knew where they were filming. Of course, you could be picky and say all of a sudden he turns a corner and he's on the other side of town, but everyone knows that when you live in a city. But it doesn't matter. No one had done a car chase like that at the time. And not only the way it was filmed, and Steve McQueen is kind of like the Tom Cruise of his day, where he would drive the car and do his own stunts, more or less. And the motor on that Mustang was not the Mustang, the Charger, I guess. Someone's going to tell me, they're going to tell me I'm fucked up in whatever car it was. But the sound of that motor that he's driving, it just
got you wet.
Yeah. I love this film. Lalo Schifrin's score. I recently got a soundtrack to it, a Japanese soundtrack, but Peter Yates directed it. A great, great film. And I watch this like at least once a year, Bullitt.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I didn't really like that movie. I love it now, but yeah.
Yeah. It's got adult themes like that. I mean, to me, Jacqueline Bisset, my spear gun was loaded for her.
Yeah.
There's a brunette for you.
Now, my next one, I had two, it's kind of weird, two actors when I was a kid growing up. My two favorite actors, one was Don Knotts, and I was going to pull the chicken in the haunted house or whatever.
Oh, not Mr. Limpet? Not Mr. Limpet?
No, I didn't like that one.
Okay.
But my other favorite actor was Sidney Poitier.
Oh, yeah.
And this movie here, well, let's just put it this way. After seeing this movie, I wanted to be a teacher, man. He was so cool in this. I mean, the kids were like, oh, man, they were terrorizing, and he just kept his calm. He was cool, and he was just so cool. Had a cool song by Lulu in it. And
she plays in the movie. She's one of the students. It's so, what a great song.
Yeah. But yeah, I love Sidney Poitier, and this is probably my favorite of his, but I don't know. He had a slew of movies back in the 60s.
Yeah, well, Lilies of the Field and To Sir With Love. I think To Sir With Love is my favorite Poitier movie, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, another obvious choice, but this really broke ground for a lot of reasons. Because my dad took me, there was a theater downtown, the Golden Gate, one of the big giant cinemas. It's a theatrical place down on Market Street at Taylor. And they'd have the road shows with the programs. And we went to a Saturday afternoon screening of this on 1968. And literally the first time I was ever with my dad, and I was 14, and you could smell pot. All the hippies in the first 5 rows. And that was 2001: A Space Odyssey. I don't remember ever acknowledging, and I don't know how I knew what pot smelled like. I wasn't smoking pot at 14 in 68, but you can smell something, my dad probably, is that patchouli oil? He knew, but especially during the psychedelic space scene to infinity, Jupiter Infinity and beyond, this I was a huge Kubrick fan forever. I went back and obviously later, I don't think I got into Strangelove until after this, or any of his earlier films. Obviously, Lolita, I certainly didn't get into till later, but Kubrick
What what
became,
what about Spartacus?
yeah, I had seen Spartacus, but in a
Yeah,
way, as much as I like Spartacus, that doesn't seem like a Kubrick film as more as a
yeah,
hired. I mean, it was his film, but it doesn't have the Kubrick vision like what would happen
yeah.
to all the other stuff. And I love Spartacus. That's great. Um, but of course, after this, and then Clockwork Orange blew me away. I almost pull that in a different way, but to me, this was the more dramatic. Just all of a sudden, I started thinking about directors and how they composed a frame and film, and because he seemed so different than everyone else. All these other movies I showed, like I never knew Peter Yates directed this when it came out, when Bullet came out, and I didn't know who directed Seven Faces or those other movies, but I certainly know Kubrick was a major force. I mean, he was the vision. He was like the selling point to a lot of people here, and
Yeah,
obviously after this. So 2001, 68.
that's a good choice. Yeah, I didn't see that when it came out, but I did see this one, and I remember we saw it at the drive-in, and this movie kind of had an impact on me, and it's
Oh yeah,
Planet of the Apes.
isn't that
Man,
68
it's
also? Is that 68, right?
yeah, 68. I like science fiction movies and monster movies and that, but this one was like a notch above, man. It was fast paced. That's one thing that I liked about it, but it told a story of a upside down world, and it blew me away. It just how good of a movie this is. It wasn't your normal run of the mill B movie at all. It was really good, and it had an impact on me, and it blew me away, man. This movie.
I was really into all the Charlton Heston movies, that and Soylent Green and Omega Man, because he was doing all those sci-fi films around that time and just after that. And I just want to say to you, Dick, get your filthy paws off of me, your stinking ape.
Yeah,
I
and
misquoting it.
I think this was based on a French novel. So
Yeah.
the French have done some good things.
Pierre Boulez, I think that's how, that had the best ending of any movie. I mean, it's so
Yeah,
funny if you compare that ending to this is like a what the fuck ending, right?
I still don't know what the hell.
But that doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
all of a sudden you see the end of Planet of the Apes, and oh shit, I didn't see that coming at the time.
Yeah, it was.
All right, I'm going now in something. Well, Easy Rider, 1969. For a lot of reasons. This was the first movie, as I recall, aside from like Hard Days, those kind of movies, that used a lot of songs as a soundtrack and picked songs as an integral part of the movie. I mean, there were other movies with music in it and songs that, but not quite like this. I love that it's kind of this indie darling. I'm a big fan of American cinema, like the 68, 69 to 72, 3, where we had these, there's people like, actually Deliverance is not an American director, but there was those kind of bleak ending movies where it wasn't that satisfying, wonderful ending. In a way, you could say Planet of the Apes was like that. It wasn't a satisfying, love, everyone lives in peace, blissful splendor. But directed by Dennis Hopper with Peter Fonda, of course. The luckiest man in the world here was probably Jack Nicholson, who got the part instead of Rip Torn for a lot of reasons, and it just really made him. He get an Academy Award for that supporting actor, but it's a great movie. And I watched this recently. It is a movie of its time, but I think it still holds up as a period piece of its time. It's not tacky at all, and it's got a great interesting vision to it. But musically, obviously Jimi Hendrix and Steppenwolf and the band. Unfortunately, the band version of The Wait is not on the soundtrack. It's the band, was it Smith? A band called Smith.
But they did a good job though. The Smith version is just as good.
It is good, but it's weird.
Yeah.
They didn't get I mean, whoever was doing the band's publishing or rights, I mean, come on, you're gonna make money if your song is on the soundtrack, especially because this was a huge selling soundtrack.
Yeah, that was a big movie.
Yeah.
I remember I was in junior high when that came out, and I remember talking to my friends. And what amazed us about that movie is, man, Peter Fonda actually smoked marijuana during that. Because at that, when I was in junior high, marijuana was like an evil drug. I mean, I didn't know the effects of it, and that's how that was our take on it.
Yeah, the evil
Yeah.
weed. All right,
Yeah.
Dick.
Now
Let's
this
see what's up, Dick.
next one might be the most
Dick?
obvious. It's
What, Dick?
It was a blockbuster. It's CC and Company, starring Joe Namath, Anne Margaret, and that Sid Haig. I don't know if you know who Sid Haig is. He was
I've
in a
never
lot of
seen that
TV
album.
shows.
I've never seen that movie in my entire life.
Yeah, it's a cheesy biker movie. It's not very good.
Who made it? Who directed
I don't know.
Well,
But-
you look on the back. It's literally written on the back of the DVD.
All I know is Joe Namath was in it. And Joe Namath, to me, when I was a kid growing up, I didn't have idols or anything, but there were two people that I thought were cooler than shit. One was John Lennon and the other was Joe Namath.
Hey Siri, who directed CC and Company? Seymour Robbie. I don't know.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Seymour Robbie directed this. But yeah, it's got a song by Wayne Cochran. Do you remember him? He was like a dude, had this giant white pompadour.
Oh yeah.
It was Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders.
It came out like
yeah. But
Never-
yeah, it's not a good movie, but Joe Namath's in it.
I don't know that movie. Okay. I'm going to 1976 now, jumping a little ahead, and probably my all-time favorite comedy. Now, it's not a yuck fest like, I mean, you could say Airplane or that genre of films, or What's Up, Tiger Lily, or things like that. But I'm going with Annie Hall because it's a mature, and I'm those of you who watch my channel, I'm a huge Mazzy's channel, not Norm's channel. I'm a huge Annie Hall fan. There is a video, I think it might be a two-parter even, of the archivist and I going through every single Woody Allen movie. And I will stand by this movie. It's one of the greatest films ever made. It's unusually good and romantic and really funny. And I think I probably have seen this movie more than any other film ever. And I know virtually every line. I have like two friends that know every line, and it's just la-di-da, Annie Hall, twins Max. Imagine the mathematical possibilities. But I love this film, Annie Hall, Woody Allen, and it won Best Film, Best Director, and Diane Keaton for Best Actress, and I think Best Screenplay. Not that awards mean anything really, but it just throw that out. But I love this movie, Annie Hall.
Yeah, I like that movie. There's one movie that should have been included in mine is Wizard of Oz. I probably saw that movie more as a kid because they showed it every year around Christmas, but I don't have that one.
A lot of people don't realize. I mean, I sorry to interrupt you here, but Mazzy interrupts a lot, but actually Norm also interrupts as much as Mazzy. Sorry,
his twin brother.
He's exactly his evil twin. But you're right. You and I, the generation up until the late 70s or early 80s, we didn't have the ability to watch anything on demand. We'd have to wait till a movie came back into the theaters. I think we should point that out to a lot of the younger audience. So, now you can watch anything.
The Rad Pack, the ones that originated this, they were showing movies that they watched, the movies they watched the most. And it's because they had them on VHS. Yeah, we didn't have that. But what I wanted to say is one movie that I did have pulled for this, and it just got booted, was Take the Money and Run. That I love that. I thought that was the funniest movie when I was a kid, man.
His earlier funner movies, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that might have been the first one he wrote and directed. I think it is.
Yes.
But anyways,
because he did not direct the one after that. He didn't direct Play It Again, Sam. He wrote that, but he didn't direct.
Yeah, that was good too, man.
Obviously, the front he didn't direct. He was just hired on for the front, but that's not a Woody Allen movie per se. But yeah, I think you're right.
Was Play It Again, Sam, a Woody Allen movie? Wasn't that on
No, he wrote it as a he wrote it as a play, but he didn't direct it.
Yeah.
You keep talking. You can keep going, but
No, I'm not going to go until I have your full attention.
Play It Again, Sam was directed by based on his play. Who the frick directed this? Music scored. Oh, Herbert Ross directed it, who did those
Yeah.
dance movies like what's the dance movie? Shirley MacLaine, anyway.
Yeah. I need to get that a copy of that. I love that movie.
I have that's one thing, every Woody Allen movie I have. Even some of the later ones are good, but anyway, that's another story.
I probably have 20 of his movies.
Yeah.
Well, the next one, you mentioned it earlier, and this movie had a big impact on me, and it's Clockwork Orange, Stanley Kubrick. I mean, before this, I had seen Spartacus. I liked the movie, but as far as the director, I could have cared less. But man, this movie, it was different. It was very violent, very imaginative. I don't know if the subject matter was so much different than what other movies had tackled, but the way they tackled it was definitely different. And yeah, I saw this movie. It was me and my cousin Mark, and we left, and it was like, I don't know if I really grasped what everything. So I went back the next day on my own and watched it again. That's how good or how much of an impact this movie had on me. It's I don't know, man. It was different than anything else. And this cemented Stanley Kubrick as being one of my favorite directors.
1972. I just started college at San Francisco State. I remember the day after seeing that, I was in I don't know, sociology type of class or something like that. And somebody brought that movie up, and I'd just seen that before, and we talked about it. And some people were so amazed how violent it was.
Yeah, it didn't
but also the music. I mean, the use of Beethoven and Wendy Carlos, Walter Carlos. Then I mean, God, it's an intense film, but it's a beautiful film. It's hard to say beautiful because of the subject matter, but oh my God, it is so many things, so many.
It's a great movie.
I'm gonna do another kind of a sci-fi film that I just love, and I've seen it a lot of times, and I don't know if it has more of a cult following. Directed by George Roy Hill, and it's based on a Kurt Vonnegut book, and that's Slaughterhouse-Five. And I just love this movie. And when I was at San Francisco State, also when this came out, maybe it came out a little before that, I can't remember what year, but I had to write in 1972 it came out, so I was like a freshman at San Francisco State, and I wrote an article on the editing of this movie. D.D. Allen edited it, but this is great because it's about time tripping, and this character takes place in World War II and present time and future on this planet Tralfamadore. And I remember Valerie Perrine, how do we pronounce her name? Perrine is in this, and that got my my
radar going, or
warms got my shifter moving there. But this is great too, and Ron Liebman's in it, and it's time tripping through these different time periods in Dachau after the bombing of Dachau in Germany and World War II, and then he all of a sudden jumps back to present time. Then he's in this kind of bubbly thing with Valerie, who was a dancer I can't even beg to explain it, but it's really, really good. Love this movie, Slaughterhouse-Five, based on it's one of those books. I read the book later, and it's one of those movies that if you ever read the book, you think they're never going to make this in a movie. It's never going to work. And I think it worked beautifully. Anyway.
Well, that's kind of like this one.
Yeah.
Have you ever read the book? I think the movie
I did. Anthony Burgess wrote that. I read it after, and he's got all these it's a lot of the dialogue in that he took from Russian, like Moloko Milk Bar, and they use the word Maslow, which in Russian means butter. Not my last name, but Mazzy's last name, Maslow, means butter maker. not Norm's. But
Yeah, that I think the movie was better. I mean, remember it had a glossary at the back, like almost like a dictionary. What's this word mean? You'd have to go to the back. Oh, okay, it means milk, or
yeah, yeah,
it
exactly.
was, yeah.
All right, one more. No, two more for me.
Two
So
more, two more. Now this next one, it's I got into these when I was in high school. It was the same with the Marx Brothers. I got into the Marx Brothers when I was in high school. But I think this had more of an impact on me and my taste in movies. And it's the old Sherlock Holmes with Basil Rathbone. I think they made like 14 of these from 1939 to 1946, if I remember off the top of my head. And I love these. I love the character. I read all of the novels, Sherlock Holmes novels. I love all the Elementary and all these new. The only version of Sherlock Holmes I don't like is that one with
Robert
yeah,
Downey.
what's that actor's name?
Robert
The one that
Downey.
did Black. Yeah, with Robert Downey Jr. I don't like that one. It's like an action movie.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
it's
dig
a
these.
different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I dig these. Now this one, I pulled this one because I have a bunch of them. This is The Voice of Terror, and this takes place like during World War II, and they're going against the Nazis, and he gets all the bums and the lowlifes of London to all get together because they're so proud of London, and I don't know, man. This one, I just love Sherlock Holmes.
You know what? I almost pulled that. It's related to that only because Basil Rathbone is in it. He plays a villain. One of my all-time favorite Technicolor film, when Technicolor was like really vivid, is The Adventures of Robin Hood with Errol Flynn, and he's the bad guy. He's the sheriff of Nottingham, and it's so good. The color on that, you got to get that DVD. I don't know if there's a Blu-ray, whatever, but The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yeah,
I don't need to pull it.
It's stunning looking, that movie.
God,
Yeah,
it almost looks fake, colorized.
Yeah.
It's not. It's really great. My next one is from 1980, and I'm picking this. This is a director. That's an amazing director, and this is not even my famous film by this director, but this is talking about a movie that meant something in a weird way. I remember like literally the end of this movie more than the whole movie. I bought it years on DVD, and it's been hard for me to watch since, because I watched it on a Monday night at the Clay Theater in San Francisco. My buddy David, who I did the Beatle book with, managed the Surf Theater. It was a chain of independent and foreign films in San Francisco. He got me passes. So two of my buddies and I went to see this movie on a Monday night, December 8th, 1980. At the very end, this is Kagemusha, and this is by our Kurosawa. And Kurosawa, obviously, Throne of Blood is one of the great movies based on Shakespeare, and samurai films, the greatest samurai films ever made. This is a beautiful movie. The last scene in the movie, they're on the beach, and the main characters on the beach, and literally a row of, I don't know, 50, 100 samurais are shooting arrows into this one guy, and he's on, doing the, almost put Bonnie and Clyde because of the ending, but like that, and he falls on the beach. And as the credits were rolling at the end, this guy, I'm sitting on the aisle, comes down and taps on my shoulder. He says, "Are you," he said my name because I was on the guest list or the whatever, got a pass. And he goes, "Yeah," he goes, "Call the Surf Theater. Your friend David wants you to call him right away. It's urgent." So I go up and I put a quarter in the oh no, he said, "You call David right away. John Lennon was shot." And I go in and it took I was fumbling getting a quarter to put in the phone, and I called David and I said, "What?" He goes, "It's true. He's dead." And I remember, I just have that image of seeing the last shot of this with all these arrows, this guy dying, and then hearing like literally 3 minutes later or 5 minutes later that John Lennon was killed. So I've seen it once since when I got this. It doesn't always bring me back, but it just remembers that night, which was, we all know you lived it. We all lived it in different ways, but I love Kurosawa films. I love, just his vision and, Japanese samurai films.
Yeah. Wow. That's personal
the
story.
emotional Norm.
Yeah. Yeah, I found out John Lennon died watching Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Howard Cosell, he goes, he goes, he said something like, John Lennon has been shot. And then it was like, I don't know. He didn't say anything for 10, 15 minutes. And then he comes back and he goes, I'm sorry to say that it seems like John Lennon has died, or, yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, Dick, cheer us up. Is this your last one?
I'm going to cheer you up with this one here.
Oh, I love that movie.
Evil Dead.
Actually,
now,
okay,
go ahead.
Keep going.
Anyways, I was not a fan of horror movies, 70s horror movies, the slasher movies and all that. It seemed too exploitive to me. And I had a girlfriend in the 80s, mid 80s. Her name was Annette. And I mentioned Annette in I think my last video I made when we went to see Madonna. But this was her favorite. Yeah. It started a chain of like a franchise. But yeah, this was like her favorite movie. And I go, huh? So I rented the VHS and I go, man, this is fucking great. And it started me on a journey of Reanimator, Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, but that is so different. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, amongst other, Rob Tapert, did that so independently out of Detroit. But I didn't see that when it came out. I saw it in the theater. My buddies and I went to see this. Late. I mean, this is the third one. This one was so over the top. It's like the Three Stooges meets horror. It's wacky. It's funny. And then I went back, and the first one's the scariest, definitely.
Yeah, this came out in 82. I probably saw it in 84 on 85.
Yeah, this is 92. Maybe. This is when the big studio De Laurentiis jumped in. And I just thought Bruce Campbell was the funniest guy. So,
did you see the new one?
No. Is it any good?
Evil Dead Rises.
Just came out. He produced it. Is it any good?
It's on HBO. Yeah, it's good. It's actually pretty good.
I'll watch it. Okay. I'm going to end up with something that's just, to me, a beautiful film. It's very artsy, but it's a famous.
Oh, another artsy one.
But it's like 85% or 90% in German. And that's Wim Wenders' Wings of Desire. I love this film. I like Wim Wenders, Paris, Texas. He did Buena Vista Social Club. He did is it Until the End of the World, I believe he did that. But there was a sequel to this he made, which I don't like that much. Black and white film, Bruno Ganz, German actor. If you don't know Bruno Ganz by his name, he was also in American Friend with Dennis Hopper, based on one of the Tom Ripley books, which is I love American Friend too. But I really got into a Wim Wenders thing. This came out, I saw it on a big screen. It's amazing. Criterion is great. But Bruno Ganz, if you don't know him by name, if you saw all those Hitler memes in the bunker when they that was him. And what's great about this, it's about these angels. It's surreal. There's voiceover, but then there's some great Peter Falk is in it, playing Peter Falk, Columbo, which it's just so weird, the direction. It's filmed in Berlin. The music within the film, there's some great classical, neoclassical, like string music. There's a scene in this club or in this concert, and it's Nick Cave. It might have been one of the early times I got into Nick Cave. I got into him late. So I got into him in 92. That's late considering some people were into the birthday party and that stuff. The soundtrack's great. The trapeze. I mean, it's just a beautiful film. These angels living above Berlin. I just love this movie, Wings of Desire. And it's with subtitles, except obviously for the Columbo parts. But it's
I've never seen that movie.
Well, yeah, I think you would appreciate it, maybe.
Yeah, I think I would. That's Michael 45 Graves, or Michael 45 RPM's favorite movie. Michael 45 Graves.
Is it really?
No, I don't know. Shit.
It could be. I mean, it's a great. I mean, obviously, if German's your native language and listen, it's a different thing. There's something about the beauty of the thing, and I do have the soundtrack, and Bruno Ganz does some voice parts in German, obviously, and it just really adds to it. I mean, anything Wim Wenders filmed, I just really like. I mean, he has an artsier side to it. Well, indie side. He did make one film under Zoetrope Coppola that I was talking to Dizzy, my friend Dizzy, about, because he made Hammett, which was a failure for Zoetrope that Coppola produced. He brings Wim Wenders in to direct it. It's about Dashiell Hammett. And it's just, I have a feeling it's one of those films that Francis, maybe Coppola had too much his hands on top of another director. You know, I mean, if you're going to hire
Yeah.
someone for their vision, let them do their friggin' vision. Now, I don't know all the
Yeah.
details there, but it wasn't a good film. Frederick
You-
Forrest just died.
What's the name of that movie?
Wings of Desire.
Wings of Desire. Do you think it would be good in English? A remake done in English?
Oh, do you know about that?
No, I don't.
Oh God, it was, and it's terrible. Meg
'Cause
Ryan.
I had a feeling it would be terrible.
Meg Ryan and Nicolas Cage. I forgot the name of it. Hey Siri. Meg Ryan, Nicolas Cage film. It's called City of Angels.
Okay, I've seen that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's an angel, and it's kind of romantic thing.
Yeah,
but,
I've seen that one with her.
Yeah, it's just it's.
I used to like Meg Ryan.
I like Meg Ryan. I like Nick Cage. I mean, I'm still a Nick Cage. I'll
He's
watch
hit and
anything.
miss for me. He's hit and miss for me.
Oh, he makes a lot of crap, but I just like him because he makes a lot of crap.
Yeah.
All right, that was fun, Dick.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
We'll
We
have to
should
it
do another
again.
one.
We'll do it again. Put your comments down if you want more of these. We'll do them maybe once a month or something. But you know, it's the movies, stupid,
Yeah.
right? Bye, Dick.
Bye, Norm.